Good afternoon. I'm Saad Al-Aziz, the owner and head instructor of Semper Fortis Jiu Jitsu here in San Antonio, Texas, and here to tackle this week's question of the week, which came to me from Matt, who asked, what things do you do, or what things can you do to overcome jiu-jitsu plateaus when you feel like, you know what, I'm just not progressing, my jiu-jitsu is stagnant, what things can you do to overcome it? And it's a great question, and it's something that no matter what belt you're at, white belt through black belt, you're going to hit plateaus where you feel like you're not getting better, or you're being stagnant, or maybe even sometimes due to injuries, you feel like you're declining. And, you know, it's throughout your jiu-jitsu journey, you're going to hit plateaus, and you're going to have that. And what I have found to be the most effective way to overcome plateaus is add things to your game. And what I mean is, like, let's say in closed guard, I always like to do, say, the hip bump sweep. And I'm really good at it, but, you know, lately it just hasn't been working. Well, what I'll do is I'll continue to go for the hip bump sweep, you know, but I would try to add another sweep. And maybe I'll add, a butterfly sweep, where I change going from closed guard to a butterfly guard, and then go for the sweep there. Or maybe a scissor sweep, or, a flower sweep. And what I'll do is, in training, when I'm rolling, not only will I drill that particular sweep a lot with various training partners, but when I'm rolling or, sparring after class on an open mat, I will actively try to do that sweep to people. So maybe my favorite sweep, like I said, maybe it was the hip bump sweep. And I will stop doing that in training, when I'm rolling in class, and focus on hitting the scissor sweep, for example. And just keep focusing, keep trying to hit it until I find myself hitting it effectively against all belt levels. Because really what I'll start with is I'll start with the white belts and be like, let me try this technique on the white belts. Let me see if I can consistently hit it. And you're going to have to fine tune it. The more you rep, the better you'll be at this particular move. And then once it starts working on the white belts pretty consistently, I start hitting it on the blue belts and focusing on hitting it on them, and then the purples, and then the browns, and the next thing you know, white belt to black belt, you're hitting this move. So when you feel like you're hitting a plateau, see if you can add something. You don't have to totally revamp your jiu-jitsu game. You can still do the things that you enjoy doing or that you're really good at, but see if you can add one more thing. Like if you're really good and you got your favorite way to escape side control is, maybe bridge and shrimp. See if you can add maybe hitting a darsh from the bottom side control. See if you can just add it. And, of course, it's going to be a challenge if that's not your move. And you just keep working. And the next thing you know, now I'm hitting the darsh when I'm in bottom side control against all the belt levels. And that one addition could really reach set and change things. The other thing is look at plateaus realistically. And what I mean by that is don't get caught up in comparing yourself to other students in class. Because you'll come in and you'll be like, well, when I started jiu-jitsu, I used to always roll with this person, and I would get the better of them, And then, or now, when I roll with them, they're getting the better of me, or we're going to a stalemate, and I don't understand what happened. And sometimes what happens is they just started training more than you. Maybe you was coming 2 days a week, and they're coming 5 days a week. So initially, you was doing better than them, but because they're training more than you, not only have they caught you, but they will eventually, surpass you because they're investing more time in training. And there's nothing you can do about that. That's just one of those things that's like, hey, the person that trains the most is going to have a tendency to be the best at it, Not always, but there's other factors. But the person that trains the most, is going to end up being the best. So sometimes you'll feel like you're stagnating, or you feel like you're at a plateau. But really, what's happening is that the people you're consistently training with are just training more than you are, and so they're progressing at a faster pace than you are. And that doesn't mean you're bad. Your jiu-jitsu is bad, or the way you're approaching jiu-jitsu is bad. It just means, they're just training more than you are. And if they're training more than you are, they're going to have a tendency to advance quicker. They're going to become a little bit better. So you have to look, we all have to look at, like, how much time are you investing in training? I look at that myself. Like, I went against a friend of mine. Well, we're friends now. We competed in the Pan Ams a couple years ago, and we finished the match tie score, and he received the referee decision. We competed at the Pan Ams this year, and I think he beat me 10-0 or 11-0. Like, he pretty decisively beat me. And like, you could feel like, well, how did he surpass me? Well, either he focused on an element in his game that stifled me, or he just trained harder than me. Like, he just trained more, or, he added some new techniques. And so it's not so much that I hit a plateau or I was stagnant, but I didn't make as much progress as he did. And, ultimately he came in with a better strategy in the match, and he outperformed me. And so from that, you go back and you look and you say, well, what did the person do that's causing me problems? And, and that's the same thing with your training partners in here, not just in a tournament. But you're like, okay, well, every time I roll with this person, they do this and it's causing me problems. And every time I try this escape, it's not working. Well, if it's not working, either you're not proficient enough at the escape, so you need to drill it more, or maybe you need to add another escape, to try with this individual to see if this other escape works. Because some people are good at countering a particular escape, but if you go a different direction or a different escape, they're not going to be as good at countering that. So just take a look at that. And the same thing with, like, say, passing the guard. Like, some people are really good at passing to their left side, but they're not good at passing to their right. Same thing with defending it. Some people are really good at defending a pass if you try to pass to the left, but they may not be as good if defending the pass to the right. So see if if they're stifling you when you try to pass to the left, see if they're as good defending if you do the exact same pass, but just to the other side. Try passing to the right. And that little adjustment could be enough to change the outcome of whether your pass is successful or is unsuccessful. And it could just be as simple as going this way instead of this way, or vice versa. So that's this week's question of the week. Just realize we all hit plateaus, and when you do, just analyze, is it because you're not training enough, or do you just need to add something else to your game? If you're a white belt, you're just going to constantly learn. But as a black belt, I'm still constantly learning. Like, we just had a guy come in, teach a class here Thursday from a different school, and I learned a couple new techniques from him that I'd never seen before, or that weren't in my arsenal, that are now in my arsenal. So, I'm still getting better. I'm still trying to overcome plateaus myself to get better. And when you're at a white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt level, you're in the same boat. You're going to feel like you hit plateaus, but sometimes it's just adding a little technique or changing the direction, and it can change the outcome of a particular role or a match. So that's my answer to this week's question of the week. If you feel like you're hitting a plateau, drill more, or just add another technique. And you don't need to add 10 new techniques. Sometimes just add one new technique or two, and that can really make a huge difference. But it's your proficiency at the technique. It's not, you don't need to know 100 techniques to get out of side control. You really need to know one or two and be really freaking good at those one or two. And you'll have a much higher success rate of escaping, because your level of proficiency is so much better. All right, that's this week's question of the week. Thank you so much for the question, Matt. And anybody's got a comment below on tips that they overcome plateaus, feel free to share. And feel free to ask next week's question of the week, whatever it is. You can either ask through YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or just when you see me in class. All right. Thank you guys so much. Ciao.